Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And yes, today we are going to do a solo game of the new historical board gaming game, Invasion Normandy. And this is the game that I had the pleasure of working on. I was the lead designer, but could not have gotten this thing done without the help of many people. And you can see their names throughout the videos. And just so much help. Mike Kelly, Hambone HQ, Mark the Shark, G.I. Joe, Sky Marshall, Triple Crown, and others. And of course, Doug Friend at HBG. So we are going to get ready to go with our Airborne drop. We've got our little crickets, and we are going to see where those Airborne guys end up. Right, so the Americans have dropped, and the 82nd Airborne is kind of scattered a bit. There's a couple that landed here right on the Montabaur airfield, so that's handy if they can take that out. That will eliminate one German plane right off the bat from the game. And the other ones are over here. Not much of a threat to anybody, but they'll probably head into Quebec and try to take that. And maybe be able to dispatch a Goliath right off the bat. In St. George, I actually dropped in there and realized, hey, there's no German infantry. But there's always a German infantry on every Balkan Cross victory hex. So I put one in there quickly. But these four guys all landed there, so they're probably going to beat him up pretty good. Saint-Mary-Église, of course, a couple of guys dropped into there, and they're hanging off the rooftops, and hopefully we'll make it through the night. The British, yeah, they just have a lot fewer stuff going in here. So one guy's off by himself here, and he'll take a poke at Pegasus Bridge. And we've got a tank and a man that have to fight this hard point here. So we will try to take out that fortification. The Canadians landed together right off the beach, but they're in the water. So we're going to have to tread carefully there and get out of the water. And it'll be interesting to see if they can slug their way out and make a difference. And then the British are here in a good position to go after Dives over here, this city right here. Looks like Dives, pronounced Dives. So that's where we're at with the Airborne. So we're going to fight it out, and then we're going to do our landings, and we'll come back after the first round of Allied combat and show you what the Germans are able to put on and the response of the Germans. Okay, so we've done our Airborne phase and our first landing phase. So that's where we are right now, and I'm going to show you the results. So here are the results of the casualties, and as you can see, we lost 7 Airborne units, so that's quite a bit, but they did some damage. Took out 1 fortification. The Rangers actually, not the paratroopers, but the Rangers took out the gun at the Pointe du Hoc. And 1 bunker fell. Out of the 6 bunkers that you can attack, only 1 fell. So it was not great that way. And 1 French troop died over on Sword Beach. We'll get to that though. So here are the Airborne results. The great thing is that the 2 guys attacking Montabaur were able to get a hit and have destroyed Montabaur airfield. And so we come down here to the Germans. They will lose 1 fighter out of the game right off the bat. So that is quite handy. I think that's going to be quite telling as the game goes along. The attack into there was not successful. This of course was. But the Germans did exact a bit of a payment. So Saint-Mary-Église, though, was a quick win. On the beach here, though, we got held up on Utah Beach pretty heavily. And even the guys who got ashore didn't get unscathed. They lost 1. Just couldn't seem to get 2 hits on any of the beaches. It was really difficult. As I said before, the Rangers were able to take out the gun at Pointe du Hoc, and then Omaha, well, Omaha's Omaha. So they got no hits, and Omaha, and they were able to get 1 hit against them on each beach. So the nice thing is then you can bring in some stuff. Now, you kind of want them to get 2 or 3 hits so that your wave of reinforcements, you could bring on 3 tanks and whatever, but yeah, no such luck. And since you can't move between landing zones here, we're stuck with 4 men and an engineering unit. It doesn't shoot, but it does take away the -1 penalty. So now we've got 4 guys shooting at 2. And here we've got the tank now aboard, one of Hobart's funnies. So we'll have a 5 with him, and then 4 ones, of course. But maybe the naval bombardment will be more effective this turn, and the air power can help out. Possibly, let's see here. And we are 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So the British air power could actually help out here, because you can always help. You can always attack within 3 hexes of the farthest inland of your beach's troops. So 1, 2, 3. So I could put some British air power onto the bunker on Omaha. Over here, the only bunker that did get erased was by the British here on Gold, and they were able to get onto the beach nicely. Got a little stalled here by one guy, and that is unfortunate. The good part is that they're on shore on every beach except for Omaha, which is kind of what you expect. So air power will come into the next turn. The Canadians got ashore here without loss, but they really got stymied here. They lost 2 guys and didn't get a hit. So that was tough going there on Juno. And on Sword Beach, with the help of the paratroopers, with the help of the French coming in and helping to liberate Ouistreham, that they were able to take out Ouistreham, and now they have a French resistance person fighting with them, and they're pretty handy. Cabourg was nice. We were able to come in, and the paratroopers and the British commandos were able to take the town. 1 casualty was taken, and although it hurt my heart, I had to take away the Canadian paratrooper, which is unfortunate, but we have 2 British commandos and a French resistance fighter, and she's got her Sten gun ready to go there. Over here, the attack on Dives did not go well, and lost a British airborne and got no hits. So that's where we are right now, and I think I said mistakenly we'll go until the Germans put on their reinforcements, but the Germans don't do that on round 1. They do that on turn 1, but they don't do it on the first landing phase or the airborne phase. So this is where the board stands right now, is we have 8 victory hexes for the Allies, 4 of which are strictly, well, I shouldn't say strictly, 3 of which are strictly airborne, and the rest were done by the beach landings or a combination of airborne unit as well. So that means at the start of the next German turn, which is turn 1, they will be able to activate any 8 hexes, and that activates everything. So they can activate this and go. One small note is this attack, I had 2 guys here. They attacked, messed up. This guy here stays here. So he cuts the rail line. So the Germans can't rail anything up this way. Now, having said that, they can rail to here and rail around and still get around. But now that's a spot I don't have to bomb. And now I can direct bombers at different places and perhaps cut the rail line so nothing can get up the Cotentin Peninsula and help rescue Cherbourg, which usually comes under some sort of pressure. All right, we'll let you know how round 1 goes right after this. Well, after the Allied air campaign here and the first attack on round 1, they are doing quite well. Their air power was unbelievable. They went 5 for 5 with the bombers. So it's 2 dice at 4 or less as a hit. And yeah, some of them even got 2 hits. So they've damaged the rail here. And the Germans are going to get their engineers out there to fix it if they want to move this round, which I'm sure they do. But the British also were able to pile on some damage. I left this marker here because the tacticals came in and were able to do quite a bit of damage to those guys. So I thought I'd leave it on there just to show you the 3 damage. There's another one over here with 1 damage, but they're not dead yet because the American Rangers failed to dislodge them from a K-18. And the Germans are holding tough there. Besides that, we were able to get everybody ashore at Gold and at Sword, but Juno, fortunately, is still stuck. The 3 tanks, nothing. Just could not punch through. So, and they lost a couple guys doing it. So, really tough on Juno today. Omaha, we're able to get through on easy beach, but Dog, as they say in Saving Private Ryan, Dog 1 is not open, and it is not open. So they are really up against it over there. And here, all of Utah is finally open, and so all their aircraft will be available to them. Now, unfortunately, the Germans were pretty good with their anti-aircraft shots, and they were able to shoot down 3 aircraft, and that gave them an extra $6 for reinforcement points. And you can see the 1, the 2, the dice up there are the number of bombardment shots that they got this round. Of course, that will lower down. So once all the beaches are open, there'll only be 3 total bombardment shots, and we only need to take out 1, 2 more places. So the bombardments are going to go quickly. Over here, there's a couple of good wins for the Americans, able to take out in L12. There is a flak battery. They were able to take that out and did not sustain a loss. And yeah, things are going pretty well for them. So you can see all the things that they've been able to take out here in this game. But they have paid a heavy price. And one of the Rangers, of course, also perished. But now it's the Germans' turn. So the Allies have 13 hexes. So Germans have full activation here. And unless they start taking back a bunch of hexes, it's likely they'll be at their maximum activation points. So they have 13, but they also get the 9 because of the 3 planes they shot down. So that gives them 19 points to spend. Now the first 5 they spend must be on infantry, but they're only $1 apiece. So the first 5, there you go. Now, the other thing we can do is spend $5 on this reinforcement table. Pardon the shadows here. All right. So you can roll. It's round 1, so we can roll. And if Hitler wakes up, the Germans are going to put on 4 mechs and 2 medium armor over on the east side of the board. So we're going to do that right now here in real time. And you can see we have to roll on round 1 a 1 or a 2, and then as the numbers go, as the rounds go up, you have to roll. It's a little less stringent, but you're also going to get less stuff given to you. Okay. So we're going for a 1 or a 2. See if Hitler wakes up. Wakey, wakey, mein Führer. Oh, no, he wants to snooze. All right. Well, we're lucky his doctor gave him an extra pill. So that is it for that. So that's $5 off, which knocks it down 5, 10. So they're down to 9 points. And that's going to give them, we're going to give them a regular armor and a mech, because that is $4. So there they go. So that's they're going to get 5 men, the tank. Now I could have foregone the roll, but it's really worth the risk. I highly recommend it. All right, I'll let you know how the Germans do. Just another point out another. I don't know if you saw it. The bomber nailed that. So Germans cannot move as much as they want to. They got to get some engineers on. Maybe I should have bought some engineers. Oh well. We're just going to try to get things going here, get some combat units on the board, and then move and attack the Allies where we can. We'll have to wait for next turn to put on engineers, I think. All right, headed off to round 2, and we'll show you how the Germans did. So we brought up some guys here from Q11 right on up to the damaged rail, and they'll be able to move to here and attack the Airborne next turn, so all is not lost. The French resistance here made a little bit of impact as there were some fast units here. I put the tank and the mech here, and I wanted to drive them all the way up, and you can see the tank made it, but the mech got stalled in Saint-Lô. So French resistance did its job there. Not much for attacking though, except for here, which was an utter disaster. The Germans had 2 infantry, a mech, and 2 heavy tanks going in, and they got no hits on the British and the former French resistance. No hits whatsoever. It took 2 hits in reply, so they're down 2 infantry. So that's not good. And that's pretty much it for the attacks. So now we're on to the next wave. And as you can see, the reinforcements really get thinned out quickly, right? Because you're loading up 10 units each round into the follow-on box, the follow-up box, and they get put here. So if you get stuck on the beaches, yeah, you'll have lots of reinforcements, but if you punch through, reinforcements get thinned pretty quickly, and already the British on Gold Beach are down to infantry in 2 rounds. So that'll be on round 4. They'll just be putting infantry on. Now round 7 is the last round you're actually able to put anything on. And I've gone heavy with tanks and mechs here, but you must always have at least 1 infantry in the next wave boxes, like 1 each. And I've put 2 because I haven't been able to silence these guns yet. And when they shoot into the next wave box, they can possibly cause some real grief because you have to always have an infantry there. So if you only have 1 infantry, yeah, that might strengthen your attack, but if the gun gets a lucky shot or a rail gun gets a lucky shot, they can take out something bigger than infantry. So that's what we have. So there's a lot of stuff coming ashore here for the Germans to deal with. And if they keep rolling like that, it's going to be a short war. All right, on to round 2. Heading to round 3, and not great news for the Airborne now. They have taken a lot of casualties. So the British have lost all of their infantry. They're like the Airborne infantry. They still have the 2 Tetrarchs, and the Americans have lost fully half of theirs, and the Canadians are both dead. But they have exacted a toll. Also, though, we've got a couple of dead French resistance. Unfortunately, 1 in a battle and 1 got caught. We'll tell you all about it in just a second. So the Americans have really surged forward here in their tacticals, taking a little bit of a bite out of the German defenses, but did not have enough stuff at the front to take out Carenton. Now, it's important to know that the Allies get a mechanized movement phase where they can move any of their mechs or tanks 1 space, but you can't do that out of a beach hex. You got to be on the ground first. So it's slow going to start, but then once you hit the open road, you can really move around. And that's really where the game gets to be balanced out, is the Germans, their movements are limited and they don't go as quickly. And if you can keep those rails bombed, well, it really helps. But as you can see, the Germans did end up buying an engineer this turn, zipped up and got that. But this task force, we had an infantry, 2 tanks, 2 mechs, and 2 Fallschirmjäger attacking 3 airborne, and only got 1 hit, and the airborne got 1 hit in return. So the point for this was, or the idea for the Germans was to clear this, and then they could go over and help Carenton, which is under siege. That's very difficult. Also, these water hexes, they're flooded areas. You lose half of your attack strength, rounded up, to try to attack. So it's not unlike being on a beach and trying to get up the beach. So attacking Carenton, you want to bring some more armor up. And right now we've only got 1 armor, and we're going to have so 1 at 6, 2 at 3, and 2 at 2 going into Carenton. So that's why I decided to bomb that a little bit. And my tacticals got away with it. So no damage there. The bombers themselves were very anemic this turn with no hits. 0 for 5. Finally, the Rangers were able to dispatch those 2 Germans that were there and open up. Omaha is now fully opened, and I was sending guys over to take care of the Germans there, but that was done. So now this road is very useful getting through these marshy areas. That will be likely utilized by a Big Red 1 and the boys. Over here in Bayo, the Germans are stacking up. You can see there's French resistance there, though. And the British are trying to surround it and try to hit it with as much stuff as possible. You only do get one round of combat, so you want to be able to take out as much stuff as possible, if not everything, in one fell swoop. Now, the great thing about the Allies is they don't need to take the victory hex. And sometimes it's advisable not to. So if you take a victory hex, well, that's great. That gives the Germans an extra point. But if they take it back on that turn, that will give them an extra point. So you're basically trading it back to them, and they get their point back. So you got to be careful about that. The aircraft didn't do as well over here. We had 2 of them get shot down by the Germans, so that was a mess. And not a lot of great effect, although they did come down here, and the ground forces were able to dispatch those panzer divisions, and they're moving in slowly but surely. But this, I've decided to make my line in the sand here for the Germans. Now, this can be folly, though, because the Allies can actually just go around Caran. They don't need it to win. There's 4 victory hexes there, but they don't need it. If they can get out into open country over here, there's a lot more than 4 hexes. So that is, it's a thing I can do. But if you're not quick as the Germans, you could be in trouble. Now, the good thing is the French resistance that was in Caran was caught by the Gestapo and silenced. So now you can freely move through Caran, which of course puts a great big target on it for the bombers. The stuff here did not get in because the French resistance stopped, but the engineer was going to come over here and repair this, but the French resistance stopped them, but then was caught. So that's where we stand right now. The current score is 18, so about halfway to a victory for the Allies, but the Germans are definitely bulking up with units, and we'll have to wait to see how effective they're going to be at reloading. As you can see, the Americans here are down to men. I haven't actually loaded this up, but they'll be down to men next turn. The British are down to men. The Canadians do have a lot of artillery, as they did in this actual event, but they will have to be careful to not squander it as they get ashore. And the British will be down to infantry next turn as well. So that is the end of round 3. We are moving on now. Oh, actually, that's round 2. Pardon me, round 2. Moving on to round 3. And the Germans will be putting on lots of stuff. They shot down 2 British planes, so an extra 4 points added on to the 18. 22. We'll see how they do. Okay, as you can see, we're on to round 4, and the news is not good for the Americans over here. The Germans were able to dispatch them and reclaim the hex at Saint-Georges, and they did exact a toll by taking out 2 Fallschirmjäger, but not enough to stem the German aggression. However, Caran did fall to the Americans, so there is that to celebrate. So as you can see, not a lot of German stuff up and around this area. They did come out here to try and take back Montabaur airfield last turn, but that was unsuccessful. So this turn they just kind of sat there. But the Americans are now getting into position where they have more armor on the beach and on the mainland, as it were, and are going to be making a concerted effort to head up to Cherbourg. So that's my goal this game, to get up to Cherbourg, and we'll have to try to slow down the Germans as they go, because these guys are on a rail line, and as it stands, they can get all the way up there. So that's the thing. Germans can move much more quickly, just not as much stuff as they want to. But the airplanes can come in, the bombers can destroy the rail lines, and tacticals can really stunt their offensive and defensive capabilities as they move along. Nice maneuvering here by the Americans on the roads to come through the soggy areas. This railgun hasn't hit anything yet, is likely going to fall. Actually, it will fall this next turn. And yeah, the French resistance, though, is kind of taking it on the chin, and we'll tell you why. So there's some really good parts and really bad parts to the war for each side so far. Bayo is almost totally surrounded now and will likely get cut off completely and destroyed. And that'll be 3 more victory hexes to put them up to 22. Now, over here, not a lot of stuff down here, some Goliaths, and I was going to use them next turn, but we're gonna see what the movement of the British and Canadians are, because if they come through here, the Goliath can actually get a sneak attack, the opportunity fire. So I'd rather use it on that than use it here, but either way is fine. Usually in a pitched battle, though, for some reason doesn't seem to work as well as a sneak attack. Plus, you don't get shot back at, so it's always fun. Up here, Caran. Yes, I bombed Caran, and the engineers had to come in and fix it, so they still can't get over here to fix this part. But they were able to put on some tanks in Saint-Sever and come up here, and you'll see that the British have lost their Tetrarch and a tank here that were sitting here. So they are really thin down here. Did take another victory hex, but the Germans have some punch. So they've got a couple of SS Panzer divisions here. They got 3 of them total. They're heavy armor, and then they've got 3 medium armor. So they've got more tanks right here than the British have, which is historically accurate. Over here, the Germans came running out of Deauville to attack. So they moved 2 down the road, the coast road here, and went to attack. And the artillery got stopped by the French resistance, but the 2 French resistance that I left in here did not get a hit. They only got hit once, but that killed 1 more, so they're down to 1. I moved these guys out, hoping to head out here, and I still might, but I might have to turn around and silence this before I go much further. As I mentioned before, though, 8 aircraft were shot down last round. And that really does put a crimp into your war effort, especially when the tacticals get shot down. Fighters, not so much, but tacticals, not so good. And here's Carpiquet Airfield, which was supposed to be taken on day 1 of D-Day. And as we know, it didn't fall for quite a while. And I've decided to just stack it with 5 Germans and let them come. See if that's an effective defense strategy. On to round 4. Turn 5 coming up, and the Germans continue to do well here with the aircraft, knocking down another 4 planes. So they got 8 points for that, plus the 1 that they got for taking back the hex last turn, this one here. But it did increase the ire of the Americans, and boy, they sure poured it on here and took out radar towers. Let's take a look at the installations that they've been able to take out so far. Whoop, and my cricket fell. And we have, of course, all the bunkers are gone, the coastal guns are gone, the railway guns are gone, and all 3 of the fortifications are gone. We also lost 3 radar towers and 3 flak batteries. So it's been bloody. And you can see the Airborne have paid the cost. There's only 3 Airborne infantry left on the board and 1 Tetrarch tank, which might not be long for this world, but we'll point that out in a moment. All of the Allies, except for the Canadians, are down to just infantry coming on. And that's because the Canadians got a little stalled, so they were putting on less non-infantry units. And over here, though, kind of a bit of a breakout, looking pretty good, and the bombing was a perfection, taking out the rail junction here and taking out the rail junction here. And so it'll be at least 2 turns before these mechs can get anywhere north, and the Americans definitely outpunch them right now. So the air power's done its job over here on the Cotentin Peninsula, but what about here in the interior? Well, it's been interesting. The British were able to take 1 part of Bayo, and the rest just maneuvered around to surround the city. and try to put some pressure on that way. And of course, cutting the rail line east-west, which is a key in this game. You want to definitely get some Allied units on this east-west rail line to slow down German reinforcements crossing the entire board. Over here, the Canadians punched into Caen and the British punched into Caen. There was a hint of a counterattack, but it did not actually materialize. Just not enough stuff for the Germans. They had to move everything into position first. But now that they're bulked up, they might take a poke. And the British don't have much infantry up front anymore. They've been peeled away. The Canadians have no infantry up front, just one little guy. And that can get costly because, of course, the Germans can put on 5 or 6 tanks a turn. And if you've got no infantry to shield your heavier equipment, then it could bog down for you. Over here, the Germans did a spoiling attack against the Canadians. We were able to kill a couple of mechs, but they were unable to dislodge them from N27. Over here, the German engineer came down and fixed this damage and is likely going to head up here to try to fix that damage next turn. But the Germans seem to have some problems here in Caen. They just aren't getting hits on defense. Just not really happening. They got a few, but not as much as they'd really like to. And they need to get more if they want to stem the tide. Over here, the British brought some stuff over to Cabourg, and the Germans are a bit surrounded now. Of course, they've cut the rail line, but the Germans are bringing some guys up. You can see Le Havre has emptied out, and they appear down here. You can see to F42 up here, and you can see that F42 is right there. So you can take stuff out of Le Havre and bring it over. Now, I'm not really playing with the optional rule of the Le Havre landings, so I can take these guys out as well. And at some point, sometimes you just don't want to move guys, even though you can move 12 hexes worth of stuff. You just, don't really want to move anybody. But these 6 units may make a difference. So they've come on over. And the Lisieux contingent, half of them, moved up to here. And they will be helping out in Deauville momentarily. That's where we stand right now. It's pretty good tilt. I think the Allies have some good momentum here with their great air power. Their strikes are dealing a lot of damage. You can see this tank here is already down to a 3 instead of a 6 where it should be. So it's more like an artillery piece at this point. So not nearly as scary, and the Americans can certainly attack this next turn, and they likely will. All right, that's where we are. Nothing but men coming on, a few mechs left for the Canadians, but that's it. Will it be enough? As the Germans are now putting on a lot of stuff. They put on $31 worth of stuff last turn, and it's only going to get more as the Allies continue to take more and more victory hexes. Remember, your goal is to get 36. If you can get 36, you have yourself a victory. We've got that here on this cheat sheet. Oh, maybe we don't. I thought it was on the cheat sheet. So this cheat sheet is very handy, by the way. And I haven't used this since the first round, but maybe I'll do it this round because we are going to be getting some extra money. So it might be worth a $5 roll on turn 5. I need to get a 1 to a 6. I get a mech and a medium armor for $5 as opposed to 10. So might be worth it. All right, here we go. Round 5 coming up. Turn 6 coming up, and things are heating up here on the Cotentin Peninsula. Lots of Germans have been swept aside, and not too great a cost has been paid by the gentlemen coming up the peninsula here. They've been doing okay, so looking okay right now, but the German engineers were able to repair this. So if the bombers can't knock it out, the Americans might have to spend some tanks or engineers or mechs or something to block these rail line. so that the Germans can't send stuff up north. And then while you're blocking a rail line, your stuff might be exposed. So it's the whole cost-benefit analysis. But this turn, the attacks caused almost no casualties from either side. It was all defense, and defense wiped out tons of stuff. So, yeah. So the Germans here had a couple tanks and a couple of mechs, and they were doing really well until they attacked. And it did not go well for them at all. So the Americans had attacked them earlier and got nothing, just lost a couple guys. So back and forth they go. But up here, it's just men coming on now, and have landed on the beach with their last tank and a number of mech units. So off they will head towards Cherbourg, no doubt. Heading down towards Saint-Lô, we have the advanced units. We've got about 6 tank divisions coming down here, and the Germans just surrounded them and rolled. Well, it was a lot of dice. I think it was 11 dice or something, and got no hits. And the 2 American tanks rolled back and got 2 hits. So, yeah, 2 tanks, 2 hits. 11 dice, no hits. Very, very surprising. But you can see the Americans are kind of gravitating down this way and might make a play down here to Coutances if they have the horses to do so. And if the German reinforcements don't come in over there. I've decided to coagulate here. My Goliaths have done nothing. I am 0 for 7 or 8. They're not getting any love whatsoever. So they're might be 0 for 9. I think these might be the last 2 on the board, possibly. Yeah, they just nothing. The closest I got was a 5. You got to get a 4 or less. Bayo has been surrounded, but just can't seem to kill that last unit in each of those hexes. Again, the attacks, not great. A couple of hits, but just not enough. And even though I'd completely surrounded it, yeah, not the destruction I was hoping for. So not exactly fillets, but yeah, we'll probably take care of it now. But turn 6 to capture Bayo, that's a while. And again, it's not a done deal. We were unable to capture Carpiquet airfield, so the Germans hold on to that. Canadians lost a couple of units. The British lost some tanks. This is really bloody. So, yeah, but the Germans are about to lose another radar station here. And that will be their 5th, I believe. Yeah, so 5 of 6 will be gone. And they've lost 5 of their flak batteries, so they are not having a good day of it against, for their anti-air power. Over here, you can see there's Fontenay, Le Pencel, Penel probably, and it's just got 1 guy left on it, but I figured I was going to hang on to the airfield, seemed more important at that time. Caran, yes, Caran, still can't break through, just terrible rolls. The Nebelwolfer, though, we got 3 Nebelwolfers here, and since they didn't move, they could do the attrition attack, so they rolled 9 dice, and were able to get 2 hits, so took out 2 mechs here in this section of Caen, but I still didn't feel like I wanted to attack. I'm going to let them come to me, if the past is any indication of the future. And over here, the Germans have decided to fight for these hexes, and that'll make the Brits come to them, or go through water and attack out of a water hex, which isn't a lot of fun. German engineers came up here and repaired this. So right now, the only rail damage on the entire board is over here. And there's an engineer here that might be able to come over and take it, unless he's busy. If the bombers get busy again and start wrecking more rail lines. The Germans have decided to try to clog up the coast road, and the Brits have matched them, but not enough to go through. So might have to use some bombardments, try to soften them up a bit. And here is a French resistance with a Tetrarch. Nice combination. We're just heading down here to possibly try to capture that. And the boys from Le Havre have shown up, and they're going to be bulking up Liege, and keeping that town safe. And that's where we are right now here, starting turn 6. Nothing but infantry coming on for the Allies at this point. The Germans did take down 3 So they got an extra $6 this last turn. And right now the Allies, it's a bit messy over here, but the Allies are sitting at 24. So that was $30. Oh, and the Germans did get the roll finally. So they got the mech and the tank for $5. And they're right here. And we just put them on here and drove up to here. And they participated in the feeble and ineffectual attack. So good job, guys. All right. That's it for the round 5 wrap-up. Round 6 is coming. Is Caran going to fall? Is Bayo? Bye-bye. So I realized after I've done my ground attack, my close air support as it's called in the rules, I realized that you never really get to see the damage, or you don't get to see much of it, because they usually pummel something and then my guys go in and kill it. So I'm just going to show you the results here. So this German infantry got 1 hit on him. This guy had 1 hit and he got two more 2s, so 4 more points of damage. So he's actually a 1 right now. Over here, this guy got a 3 banger of damage on him. And these 2 guys, this guy's 1 off and this guy here is 2 off. So it does make a difference if it's going to be a protracted battle, like if it's going to carry on for a while. But what it really helps with is cutting down on your casualties as the Allies a little deeper into the game here, because we are not running out of tanks, but it does get lower and lower. So, and with the Germans shooting down 4 planes again, they're getting really lucky on those this round. Last round, not so much, but they have an extra $8. Probably going to take a couple or 3 territories here. So they're going to have $35 to spend, maybe a bit more. And that's not nothing. And they can counterattack pretty nicely. So the American tanks here are stretched pretty thinly. If we can take out these heavy hitters, that'll probably help. The attack on these guys didn't work. So doesn't work all the time, but at least nothing got shot down. Okay, on with the rest of round 6. Round 7, so the final reinforcement round for the Allies, and it's just been infantry for a while, so they're just going to come and hold on to places and hopefully keep the Germans from sneaking around and recapturing them. Down here, we had the Americans take this victory hex, and the Germans came by with 5 artillery and a man, 6 shots, no hits. The Americans got 1 hit back, killed the only infantry that was there. Up here, the engineer was able to clear the obstacle, so if they survive this next turn, they'll be able to move down back down the railway, but it'll probably be blocked at some point. So likely not going to move too terribly far. Up top, a little bit of the town was taken here, but still some hold out, and Quebec seems to be a place the Germans want to fight. See if they are able to hold on much longer. Up here, the American armor has gotten the better of the Germans and is now headed towards Cherbourg. Has some good supply here in the form of trucks, and it will be interesting to see if they can get there on time. They've only got 4 more turns, so if the Germans can block well, it should go okay for them. Here, one lone German stands guard over the hex, and not a lot of hope for him, but again, just not getting hit. Speaking of not getting hits, Bayo. So we did clear out Bayo, but I didn't take the hex because I didn't feel I needed to. But we didn't clear out this part of Bayo. I had 14 dice at 2 and 1 dice at 6. No hits. And he came back with 2 dice and got a hit. So, yeah. Now I know why Eisenhower was going bonkers after D-Day. Everybody wanted equipment to get past this one spot. And there were about 1,000 of those 1 spots that you had to try to get past. And you didn't want to leave in your rear because, well, that's bad news. So, yeah. So Bayo hopefully will fall this turn. I'm going to target it with bombardment. If that doesn't work, I'm going to use bombers and everything else I can trying to kill this thing. So hopefully we'll be able to take all of Bayo this turn. But the Germans came in, had some reinforcements here, put some reinforcements here, and they just stayed there. Other reinforcements, like 3 tank divisions and some more infantry, have piled towards Caen. Caen is actually a pretty tough nut to crack, and did not crack this last turn despite being absolutely shelled with dice. I think there were 7 at 6 and 2 at 2, and they got all of 1 hit. And that was just an infantry. So, and the Germans shot back. The Nebelwerfer did not get a hit this time. 9 dice were all blanks, so no joy there. But you can see quite the bottleneck, right, that gets created here. And if you can't get past here, you find yourself possibly in the water. You got to go down roads with vehicles, and you might be heading places you don't really want to go, because they don't head north-south, they head east. And if you want to get down here, yeah, it's very difficult. So this is quite a bottleneck, and if the Germans play it right, they can cause 10 kinds of grief. Speaking of 10 kinds of grief, yes, these are the reinforcements that came all the way from Le Havre a couple turns ago. They are here, ready to block here in P36. Again, the coast is static warfare right now. Not much going on. Might as well dig some trenches, boys. Germans were able to shoot down 4 more planes for 8 more points. Or is it 10 this turn? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's 10. That's right. So 5 planes. Because, yes, the Canadian bomber actually fell victim to some in-house AA guns. Yes, a 1 shot down the bomber. So that's a bit annoying. Only have 4 next turn. All right, on we go. The Germans, next turn, or this turn, had quite a bit of money to spend. And they had a good time doing it. So, on to the next round, round 7, and then it's going to be a race to the finish. Should be interesting. Well, 3 rounds remain, and the Germans are really getting pushed here. They are backed up into Cherbourg with really no help of any kind coming their way. So they will just have to hopefully battle on, and it's going to be tough. The Allies are at 33 right now. Oops, I forgot to move him in. They were at 34, but the lone American tank got beat by some railed up guns, and they came in there and got him. A little bit of stall tactic here. Lots of infantry being purchased right now by the Germans. Not to say solely infantry, but we're getting some good stacks of infantry to play some defense here, but obviously not a lot of punch. But that's going to make the Allies come to them. Now, I've played this game a lot, and I've played with other people, and sometimes people will just go, I'm just building infantry with Germany, and that's all there is to it. Well, that's okay until you start getting targeted by the Allies' air power, because you're not going to be taking back anything. You're not moving quickly. And you will essentially just sit there and be little stacks of 5 guys that attack at a 2, defend at a 4, until they start getting pummeled from the air. And then they're completely anemic in offense and in defense. And that's a bit of a pain. Whereas if you build a couple of tanks every now and again, that really attracts the planes, and then your infantry tend to stay at the defensive 4. So I don't recommend just going with stacks of infantry. While it seems a bit cheaper, it will not really save you in the end. We've tried that. You're just not mobile enough. Once the Allies start cutting roads and studying rail, you got to go across country, and this map is just too big for men to be walking around. In the middle, as you can see, Bayo is all been taken. We finally took Carpiquet Airfield, and that is good. That knocks the Germans down to 3 aircraft, and they are down to 1 functioning airfield way up north on the Cotentin Peninsula, which will likely fall. The Canadians took another piece of Caen. There's only 1 left, and the Germans have their Nebelwerfers in there that exacted a horrific price this last turn, taking out 2 more of the British pieces there. And while not incredibly powerful, it is pesky. that Nebelwoofer, so careful when you're around it. Germans also still have this little stack of tanks. I think the Allies are likely going to move in and try to assault it this turn. And not sure how that's going to go, but if history is any measure, oof. But the Germans have made a bit of a bold move up here into the water to the end of the rail line that they actually own. And they are going to try to make a nuisance of themselves before they all die. There's only 4 units there, but there are 4 units here. So they are surrounding Dives with 8 units. And of course, the guys coming over from Le Havre have arrived, and now they are bulking up the defense on the back end. But as I said, the Allies have 33. They only need 3 more to hold 3 more at the end of round 10. Again, easier said than done. There are a lot of dice to be rolled, and if they can't take care of these rail lines, the bombers have been going after units recently, but we might have to go back to the rail lines, which aren't a guarantee of taking them out, or at least cut the rail lines with units like these Airborne are doing. But they got to stay there, and that's the cost you have to pay. So we will see what the Allies do here. They have all of their... Oh, we didn't actually put their guys on. Likely not going to be shooting in this war, but they will be careful of any Germans that can sneak through. Sometimes you don't see something and a road pops open that you didn't see, and they can sneak through and grab something unbeknownst to the Allies. All right, round 8 coming up. Right, just 2 turns remain here, and the Americans are closing in on Cherbourg. But not a lot of units. It may look like a lot of units, but the way they've been rolling recently, it's just not doing too well here. But nonetheless, they are moving in Cherbourg, and they are threatening. The Germans are just trying to hold on to things, but the Americans are starting to snipe these little ones. Came over here with an engineer and a tank, and were able to take out the lone infantry that was sitting there in Barneville. Everybody's just moving forward here. We're consolidating quite a bit, which happens in the later rounds. You want to make sure that you're covering all of the railways. Germans can't go through and do a little sniping of their own. Here at Saint-Georges, yep. 3 artillery are holding strong after taking that back last round. Down here, there was just not enough to be able to punch through the Germans, so we consolidated, brought some more guys down, and we'll take a poke next turn. But down here is very vacant right now. But the Germans did pile on around Saint-Lô, and were able to alleviate some pressure. They got rid of a couple of tanks and a couple of mechs. So over here, a couple of tanks and a mech, and then a lone mech here. Avoided attacking the large stacks, though. And yeah, again, the attackers are having some trouble. This game. Over here, the British are just moving on Como, and the Germans did bring in some reinforcements here, actually, which didn't move. They're supposed to move. I didn't move them. And there's 4 artillery, so one guy is going to have to leave, and I guess we'll just put him there for now. Sometimes you forget to make these little moves, but you can see just a whole bunch of units heading south. But with only 2 turns left, it's just all about coverage. They probably won't get much movement in the next 2 turns. But over here, Caen, the Canadians were able to punch through and destroy some German tanks here. Not a victory point, but it was nice getting rid of some of that. The Nebelwoofer's attrition fire failed this round, unfortunately, for the Germans. They do have some reinforcements here, and they're hoping to hold the line. Over here, the British made a massive attack and got 1 hit. Yes, just 1 lone infantry died, and they were able to take out a couple of the British units that were attacking. Up here, the engineers remain in this position here. Likely should have moved, but I'm trying to goad myself into an attack with these guys, and then maybe these guys can come in, but I can't seem to goad myself. No matter how hard you try, you can read your own brain. It's messy in there, but I can do it. And the rest of the Germans didn't do any moving, of course, because most of the movements took place on the other side of the map. Germans did shoot down 6 planes this turn, so there were 12 more points for the Germans to spend, hence a lot of tanks going on. So we are down to 2 turns left in Operation Neptune, which is the standard game. And right now, we're sitting at 36 victory hexes for the Allies, which means that is a minor victory for them. Just a minor one, mind you. And the Germans may be able to move in and take a couple back. We'll see how the next round goes right after this. And the final round, we've arrived, and we'll start at Cherbourg because it's right there. And as you can see, the Americans have gotten in there, and they have 5 tanks right there. We've closed the airport, so there's only 2 German fighters left in the game. But they made their presence felt this last turn. And there's enough armor and whatnot to probably take out one more chunk of Cherbourg. Unfortunately, due to my stupidity, which sometimes is just there, I took this tank from up here and brought it down thinking, hey, I'll block reinforcements coming in, not realizing that these 3 guys then just hopped on the rail and came over and liberated Barneville. So that was a little distressing. So that knocked down one of the city, or one of the victory hexes. So that kind of an even Steven trade here on the Cotentin Peninsula. Little bit of shooting back and forth here, but the Americans were the only ones who suffered any losses. Just a lone infantry died in that territory on the German attack. 8 at 3 and only 1 hit. So, the odds are should have gotten 2 if it was low luck, but what can you do? Down here by Saint-Lô, the Americans were getting everybody together to do a big push, and the Germans decided to put a bunch of tanks and infantry here, and were able to take out a few tanks and infantry here that was closing in on Saint-Lô. So while the Americans can mathematically do it, it's unlikely that they will be able to take anything in Saint-Lô this game. So good on the Germans, but time will tell. Here in Caumont, the British were surrounding it, but they kind of got a little bit beat up too. Not horribly, but they lost a tank, I believe. So they're going to have one final shot at taking Caumont. Over here in Villers-Bocage, which I believe is a fairly famous place in Normandy. And the Germans had 3 or 4 infantry there and 5 artillery, and they were able to take out 2 mechs and 1 tank, I believe, of the UK. So mathematically now, the British cannot take Villers-Bocage unless they take these guys over to here and attack, and everybody would pretty much need to get a hit. Not quite, but they'd only be able to have 2 misses. So Villers-Bocage is probably safe. So you can see what happens. The Allies are doing really well, and it looks like they're going to run the table, and then they just start to run out of steam while the Germans are placing on a bunch of stuff and taking shots into the vulnerable flank of the Allies. So you do have to be quite careful as the Allies to not overextend. Over here, we had a bit of a build-up by the Allies, and the Germans responded in kind, but the Germans did have a breakthrough over here. Were able to take out a few UK tanks and took back another hex. So that's 2 hexes they took back this turn, which gives them a bonus of 2 and knocks the Allies down to a losing position. The Allies definitely need to take and hold 1 more without giving anything up. And finally, the Nebelwerfer kicked in and fired into the environs of Caen, and were able to dispatch 2 units there. So the Allies will likely, again, try to take care of these. It's really hard to roll 2s and 3s. Yeah, in this game anyway. I've seen other games where 2s and 3s are coming up all the time, but for some reason, not today. this lone Nebelwolfer and engineer, which is all that is left from the little expedition northward, were able to get one hit in defense, but the British were able to take out a couple of German infantry there, so not much of a worry here for any of these towns to fall, or any of these victory hexes to fall back into German hands. The French resistance that was here was taken out. It came in and tried to do an attack with the tank and failed miserably and died. So the tank moved over. I was hoping to threaten one of these, and I don't think I can do it. I'll have to actually attack and win a fight, and they're both rolling 4s, so it's crapshoot. Plus the Germans then get to respond. So it looks like this side of the board is pretty locked up. As sparsely populated as it is, the Germans seem to have an answer for everything the Allies are doing. Now, the Allies are going to be able to pile in 5 units into all of these territories. And the Germans, you know, they got some nice tanks here. They got a stack of 4 medium tanks and 1 heavy tank. But that's just 5 dice. And even if we bring in the infantry, it's 10 dice, but these are all 2s. So I'd expect 3, maybe 4 hits if things go well. So unlikely they'll be able to dislodge the Allies from a victory hex over here. But again, the dice can play some funny tricks. The Germans were able to shoot down another 8 planes, so that's going to be 16 points, and that they will be able to... Oh, sorry, that's the 16 points they spent on the last round, and hopefully their AA guns are doing well again this next turn. Now, something you can do as the Allies is you can say, you know what, I am not going to sortie my planes this round. I am just going to use my ground pounders, and we are going to go in there and try to beat this stuff the old-fashioned way. The way God intended, as they say. Because then the Germans are less likely to have a big increase. So if their AA guns get hot and they start shooting down planes, or their fighters get hot, although there's only 2 left, if they do get hot, they could end up with an extra 8, 10, or 12 bucks to spend in points. That could be another couple of tanks, maybe a heavy tank, and that could be the difference. And that's the beauty of this game when you get into these dogfights. So we're gonna make that call as the Allies. Might use our bombers, but I might not bring in the low-flying ones so that the fighters can't shoot anything down. But we'll just wait and see what happens here. Round 10, the last round, coming up. All right, after some very heroic efforts by the Germans, they have brought the Allies down to 36. So the Allies were able to take E8, but then the Germans, emptying out Brick-Quebec, emptying out the rest of Cherbourg, were able to knock out the 4 units that were in E8. And in hindsight, I probably should have brought 1 more mech over, but I thought that they'll never be able to do it, and I guess they proved me wrong. Perrières, though, did not fall. It was very close. Got down to just the French resistance left, and all the Americans are gone. And over here, I'll show you something that I do with the Allies to ensure at least I hold on to things. So I was able to take, what's this one called? R30, just outside of Bretteville. So I was able to take that one, and then I just move things in such a way that the Germans aren't able to place beside and then try to take it back. So I know that that one is secured. I did not actually see this rail line going up here for some reason, but these guys came up and attacked here, just got a couple hits, but were unable to dislodge the Allies. The heavy tanks, though, were able to take this one back right here, Bures. And they were able to take that, and so that is how they have dropped them back down to 36. There is one last gasp for the Germans to try to get this a victory for them, and that is right here in Saint-Lô of all places. The Americans were able to come in, and I loaded it up with the heaviest stuff that survives. So there are 3 tanks and 2 mechs remaining, and the Germans are going to attack. All right. Now, just so you know, the French resistance does not play a role when you're attacking into an adjacent spot. It's only when you're doing your combat movement or well, it's just combat movement for the Germans, trying to use the rail or roads through there, and they will, you'll roll for them. But they are not involved this time. So what we have here is I'm going to put this chip over here, we have 6 infantry, we have 2 more infantry with artillery, and then we have 5 medium tanks trying to get 4 hits. So we will grab 5 dice for 5 medium tanks. Let's be dramatic about it. So we have 6 infantry at 2. 6 at 2. And we look and we see we did get 1 hit. We got 1 hit. So there we go. 1 hit. Will the Germans be able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat? So that's 1 hit. And then we have 4 at 3. Oh, all right, so that's 1 more hit. So there are 2. So now, out of these 5 tanks, I need to get at least 2 hits. At least 2 hits. And I should get 2.5. So we'll see. We need 6s. And we got nothing at all. Oh, for all the times to blank. So we just got the 2 hits. We'll take out the 2 mechs. There's no sense for the Americans to roll back because it's the last round. And even if they got all hits, they wouldn't have enough to, do any appreciable damage to the large amounts of German reinforcements. So the final tally will be 36 victory hexes for the Allies. That is the narrowest of margins of victory, and it's really interesting how that happens a lot in this game. I know Hambode played some games and he had that result, and I think some of the other play testers also had very close results a number of times, and so we feel really good about that. If you're actually able to put together a run where you get 40 to 45 or more victory hexes, let me know in the comments, because this just seems to be the real sweet spot. You know, it's a win at 36, a loss at 35 for the Allies. So this is a W, and we're going to take it and just be happy with that. But the Germans were just 2 hits away. Oops. Well, maybe they needed 5 hits here. They were 5. They were just 2 hits away, 3 hits away from getting the victory. I don't know why I thought there was only 4 there. There's 5. But just 3 hits away from getting a victory. So we shall call that a W for the Allies, and we hope all of you are having a very great spring, unless you're south of the equator, in which case I hope your autumn is going well. Well, as we always say here at the Hilltop Pillbox, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and folks, may those dice be with you more than they were for the Wehrmacht.